Saturn and Libra, the challenge. Yours is the test of cooperation with others, so fairness, justice, and equality are very important issues in your relationship. You crave peace, tranquility, and serenity. These are available to you when you are willing to defend the scales of justice and relate from a place of balance within yourself. You tend to be preoccupied with comparing yourself to others. Before you can realistically share it with someone, you must know yourself first. First, find balance within yourself, and then balance in a relationship will come on its own. This is an important lesson for you. You can easily get caught up in thinking that balance comes as a result of your relationships, but that is not the case. Yours is the path of learning to negotiate for arrangements that are in everyone's best interest and to settle for nothing less. Overcompensation. Ooh. Thank you for the club victory. And overcompensation can happen in two different ways with Libra. In one sense, you might fear taking advantage of others to the degree that you do more than your share, just to make sure that things are balanced. The trouble is, you likely go too far with this and actually tilt the scales in the other direction. If this is the case, you have to remember that compromising yourself in order to gain peace in the moment has to be considered just as much a violation of balance as taking advantage of others. Neither leads to equality. Another expression of overcompensation of this placement is adopting a legalistic point of view. Everything, including relationships, becomes evaluated by what the rules are, what is right and what is wrong. There can be an excessive forcing of the issue of what is right, with more consideration given to the point of the issue than to the person whom you are communicating with. Doing yoga, balancing postures, can be very good for you to encode the message of balance into the cells of your body. The process of learning these postures would be illustrative of achieving balance with others. At first, it takes big adjustments to compensate for the lack of balance, and you teeter-totter back and forth from too much effort. As you continue to work with it, you start to sink into the experience of centeredness rather than trying to achieve it. Projection. When you are mildly projecting Saturn and Libra issues, you dislike unfairness in others and yet attract people to you who have difficulty being fair in their dealings. You talk a lot about people taking advantage of you and how you are defenseless against this. You are aware of these imbalances, but you take the attitude of peace at all costs. The trouble is, the cost is too high, because when you compromise your perspective of fairness so as not to make waves, you are settling for less than you truly want. If you are completely out of touch with this inability to stand up for yourself, then you likely attract relationships that require total compromise on your part. Others seem to know that you will readily back down from your original stand to avoid conflict. Through compromising your standards, you are essentially teaching others to take advantage of this part of your character. This stems from taking too much responsibility for how other people might react to your perceptions. That is not up to you. The most you can do is share your perspective and then let others take the responsibility for how to use the information. Balanced expression. You have learned to honestly share your perspective without adjusting it to fit how you assume others will react. By developing and trusting your negotiating skills, you have become an impeccable diplomat, and others have learned to trust your fairness. Your agreements reflect everyone's best interests. In relationships, not only are you concerned with the ideal form that looks right, but you have also developed a deep appreciation for the work it takes to sustain a healthy relationship and are willing to deal with the unpleasant aspects as well. You have come to grips with the disappointments that stem from searching for the perfect partner. This has led you to the understanding that the balance you seek is not to be found in the outer world, but rather is a state of being within you that allows you to accept polarities, disagreements, and contradictions as natural. Understanding Saturn and Libra and others. Those with Saturn and Libra are learning how to cooperate effectively with others, and thus relationships of all sorts become the main focus. You can always appeal to their sense of fairness, as this is a part of their character with which they most likely identify. They have an ideal of perfectly equitable relationships, but have a fear that they might be taken advantage of. Realize that they are extremely sensitive to any imbalances, whether imagined or real, in your interactions. It is best to be aware of this and not assume that minor discrepancies will be ignored. They won't. In their search for the ideal partner, they will tend to project perfection on their current love interest and feel devastated if problems erupt. This leads to a tendency to assume the partner was a poor choice, and they go off once again in search of the ideal. When problems do arise in your relationship, help them through the troubled waters and encourage them to regain balance within the relationship. Once they gain the security of knowing that a relationship can improve and move beyond the occasional problems that occur, they become skilled diplomats themselves and can help others regain a balanced perspective in their lives.